continuing on Spring MVC, B.1, simplest controller in Spring MVC. We try to understand from the older version, we need to know a lot of background about Spring MVC. Yeah. So after that, we will do one small project using this old version. So then we move to the current version. Yeah. But for the current version, starting from part C, I will talk about the current version. Yeah. And for the older version, I will give you some examples. Yeah. So I will use case study projects. Yeah. So I will give you several case study projects to show you different types of examples. All right, so let's continue our understanding on Spring MVC. Now, here I'm talking about that Hello Spring example, right? Remember in the tutorial, one of the tutorial in part D. So remember last Wednesday, I upload a zip file. In the zip file, you can find this tutorial. So here I'm talking about that tutorial. Okay, Hello Spring tutorial. Yeah. All right. The first Spring controller. So in that example, we have one Spring controller, and it is the simplest controller. Yeah. So we start from that one. Yeah. First, it uses a Spring controller class called abstract controller. Abstract controller. This is the Spring's controller. Okay? Yeah. But the newer version, it is gone. Okay? Yeah. Newer version, we will not use this controller anymore. Yeah. But to understand the background, yeah, we start from this one. Yeah. All right. In the older version, Spring has several controller classes. Yeah, several. Yeah. Yeah. But not too many. Yeah. Several, but not too many. Yeah. Different types of controller classes. Yeah. If you need some special functionality, you need to choose the right controller, to develop your own controller. Your own controller basically extends this controller. Extends different controllers. Yeah. All right. From explicit controllers to implicit controllers. Yeah. So that's the Spring MVC evolution. Yeah. These are the explicit. The one like that explicit abstract controller, because you can see it. Yeah, you work on it, explicit. But later, the current version, people just use implicit controller. Yeah. Because you can never see Spring's own controller classes. You will not see Spring's own controller classes. So but actually what you are doing, you are working using implicit controllers. So behind the scene, Spring does a lot of special things you cannot see. Yeah. So we will go there later, try to understand what happens behind the scene. Yeah. All right. So when we develop a controller, we extend one of the controllers. Yeah. So that's the old way. But not a new way. New way, we never extend any Spring's special classes. The reason is very simple. For reusability. The main reason for this way change from explicit to implicit reusability. Reusability. That's the reason. Yeah. If you extend Spring special controller classes, then when you move to different places, in those places, you may not need to use Spring's classes. Then you have problem. But the current version, no special Spring classes to be extended. So then you have more freedom to use your controller classes. So that's the big difference, big improvement. So I will explain that background more and more in later lectures. All right. The problem, hard to make it reusable. When your classes are based on some special classes, that will make your classes less reusable. That's simple. For newer versions, these controls are not used. So here, I may like to refer you to a special concept called Pujo. Plain old Java object. This terminology is used a lot in Spring community. So what's the Pujo? Plain old Java object. So from this name, you can guess a little bit. That means these objects do not use any Java classes outside JDK. So to say simple, so no class used outside JDK. You know JDK, right? In order to use Java, you at least, in order to develop Java project, you need to at least download JDK. That's the minimum, right? That's the minimum requirement. So this type of object means your Java classes only use the minimum requirement. With that assumption, then your Java classes will be highly reusable. When you move your Java classes anywhere, environment, you can expect any environment running Java should have the JDK as the minimum requirement. So then your Java class can be compiled and run. So no problem. But if you use some special third-party Java classes, like this one, special third-party Java classes, then you cannot guarantee those classes are still available when you move to different environments. So that's the reason the Spring community promote this Pujo's thing. And this change, remove all the special controller classes away from Spring's controllers. That's big step forward to make it highly reusable, to make it Pujo's and highly reusable. All right, so I will give you that kind of background, gradually. In different lectures, I try to give you that kind of background. All right. To make them more reusable, so I explained a lot, and I couldn't put everything in my notes. All right. The current version uses an annotation to declare a controller. This is a big improvement. Annotation technology, Java annotation technology. So this is a big step. In our next part, I will introduce this annotation basics concept and the technology. So the newer version, we rely on a lot of annotations. Its role so important. So we will spend a lot of time to learn and practice using annotations. All right. One simple example, how to make a Java class as a controller, right? At capital controller, annotation. So this is annotation. So this will call, so everything, so any annotation start with that at sign. Then the container can recognize, oh, this class should be used as a controller. That's simple. So, but you may wonder, you just make some change from extends abstract controller to add controller. You have some special keyword add controller there, right? You have something special. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You have to put some special tags there to make the container process your Java classes in a special way. So we will talk that a lot more later. Next, view, mapping logical name to physical location. Model view controller. So now we need to look at the view part. For the view part, first the concept, logical name and the physical location. Physical location we know, so there is a physical file somewhere stored in the hard drive of your server. So then will be loaded into the main memory. So then, JVM, so we'll compile, run, all those things will happen. But logical name, you cannot find it anywhere in the physical location. No such thing. But there is a special symbol to represent that resource. So we just call resource, that resource. So view is one type of resources. All right, so here we need to do the mapping between logical name and physical name. Why we do the mapping? So we will see. The reason is pretty simple. Why separating the logical name from the physical location for a view? The reason is as simple as we can change the physical locations without changing the logical name. So this is the biggest name. For convenience, for efficiency. For example, so you can imagine in real world development, suppose when you use some view pages, so let's say JSPs. Typically, view pages we use JSPs, right? Many JSP files, you refer to those JSP files based on their physical locations. In old time, that happened frequently, but later the developers realized too many problems. The reason is because if you want to change the physical locations, then you need to change a lot of source code. A lot of work. So that's not efficient. Now, if you replace it, so later people improve in this way. Never use physical locations. Always use the logical names, but create some mapping between a logical name and physical locations. When you change physical locations, you only need to change the mapping part. Mapping rule. You can change the mapping rule easily. One place, one special file, one line, you make the change. Then, large number of JSPs, the references will be changed immediately. Yeah. Much better, much more efficient. Yeah. That's the main reason. Yeah. All right. A mapping rule between the logical view names and the physical locations needs to be established in the configuration file. Yeah, we will see just one element in the configuration file, then we will solve that problem. And actually, the way you're doing, you do the same thing everywhere in your projects. In all different projects, you use the same way to do it. Yeah, so simple. Yeah, and you will see basically when we create a logical name, how do you do the mapping, right? Yeah, because there is some difference. So you start with a logical name. Then in your mapping rule, you need to tell what prefix to be used. Prefix plus this logical name, right? Then plus suffix, right? Plus suffix. Yeah. In the middle, logical name. Prefix, suffix together, you get a physical location. So this is the physical location. That's simple. Okay? Yeah. Right. Later, when you need to do the change, so usually you change the prefix. Yeah. Usually change the prefix, because the suffix usually .jsp, typically .jsp. You don't need to change the JSP, right? You still keep the .jsp part. Yeah, the prefix, that's the folder, physical location. So which folder, so usually you change the prefix part. So, to modify your mapping rule. Yeah. All right, so later we will see example, so you can see it immediately. Yeah. All right. So now we want to prepare model for the view. Model view controller. We just finished the controller part, then view part, now model part. Yeah. In order to use the model data, first we need to prepare it in a controller to be used for a view. Yeah. All right. So let's start. Here I use this example. This is from our Hello Spring example. Okay, so this simplest controller from Hello Spring example. Yeah. In our next synchronous session, so I will, guide you to run this example. So if you haven't tried, I'm pretty much believe some of you may not try it. Yeah. So the next meeting, so I may like to, go through it. So if some people have not tried it. Yeah. All right. So look at this. There is a special method inside the abstract controller. Remember? So we extend abstract controller. Inside that, to do the meaningful work, you have to do it inside this. You have to override this method. Handle request internal, this special method, override it. Yeah. Here inside it, we only prepare model part. Yeah. But to prepare a model, here, this old way, this is the old way, there is a special class called a model and a view. So this special springs class, so this is a special springs class, combine model and view. Yeah. Because at that time, old time, those people, the Spring team created the framework, they thought they should combine model and view in one object. So you create this. Later, they changed the view. Yeah. So for the newer version, they separate the model and the view. Yeah. Because their view is improved. Yeah. All right. But this one still can be used. In the newer version, some people still like to use the old classes. It's still there. Yeah. All right. So here, when we construct, we call it constructor. Yeah. In the constructor, we pass the logical name. Yeah. All right. Here you can see in the parameters, we still use the HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. These two, so you can see, pretty much like make this controller like a servlet. So this class plays the role similar to that do get method, do post method in a servlet. Because in do get, do post methods, you need to pass these two parameters, two objects as the parameters. Yeah. Here, we can do the similar thing, yeah, with these two objects. Yeah. All right. And here, the welcome is the logical view name. So we have a JSP called welcome.jsp. So connect to .jsp. Yeah. So we have a file there. So it's under the JSP folder. It's under the web-inf/JSP folder. Yeah. Under this folder. That's the physical location of that file. Okay. Yeah. So you can see here we specify the logical view name. Yeah. So after that, the container can find that view page from that physical location easily. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then the view will be resolved by a rule in configuration. Yeah. Later, when we look at the configuration file, we will see the mapping rule. Then we're done. Yeah. So that resolving issue, yeah, will be done. Yeah. All right. And in this part, now we need to put a model object into this MAV object. MAV.add object key value pair. How do you put it? You need to give a name. So name corresponds to the key. Here we call date. Date is the name of the object. Because later we need to use this name, this key, to retrieve the data. Yeah. So the name object. Yeah. Then value. Yeah. So we construct a new Java object. And that object is the value of one model object, one special model object. Yeah. here, the key value pair. Yeah. Then, yeah, so, yeah, here, right. Here, actually the model name. So we know the model is a concept, right? Yeah, concept. Yeah. Here, yeah. So do we call this, because this data, so we treat as the data inside the model. Yeah. So here, if we say this is not model name, may not be very accurate. Yeah. So here, this model name, when we use the model name, it should be. We should be very careful. So here, the model name, here not very accurate. Yeah, regarding that. Yeah, so that's the object name in the model. So what is the model? So model, we understand as a concept containing all the data, right? Not just the one piece of data. So model, we mean, so, some big object, something like this, MAV, right? MAV, this kind of object. It carries all the data pieces. Yeah. So that's why, so when we understand a model name, we should be careful. Yeah. All right. Now, the data structure of the model object. What kind of special data structure do you use to store the model data? Right? Very simple. Map object. Java generics. Yeah. Java generics. Map, arrow, bracket, string, the key, string type. Value, object type. General object type. See? Yeah. So that is the internal object. You cannot see it. Internal object. You cannot see it. Yeah. So actually, this object is in the background of model and view inside that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But because that also contains a view part. Yeah. So in that class, yeah, inside that, then you can put piece by piece, put your data into this map object piece by piece. How do you do it? You can add a multiple object in this way. Okay. See here, mav.add object, you add one piece. If you want to add another piece, yeah, because this method call returns the object, the same reference object. It modifies its internal data, but the reference is the same object. Okay? So this one you can add another, you can call this mav.add object another time to add a new piece of data. Okay? So you can call this add object method multiple times to add multiple objects. So that's simple. Okay? Yes, that's simple. Yeah. All right. Yeah. But again, this way still the old way. Right? Yeah. The new way, so we rarely use this way. Although if we like, we can still use this way. Yeah, but sooner or later, this class, it is very likely it will be deprecated. When it is deprecated, you can never use it anymore. Yeah. All right, so let me finish the first video, B.1 here.